Alrighty, everyone. So today I'm joined by one of the newest additions to the DataDash community. This is Casi. She has been an experienced trader in the broader crypto space, doing crypto price action analysis over the last couple of years. I'm happy to have you on, Casi, because as similar to Paul and a lot of the people we're bringing on the channel, I'm trying to bring a lot of really creative talent and a lot of individuals to this space who are focused on really trying to cut out the noise, focus on the signal. And this is a really big theme that I really appreciate from your analysis as I've gotten to follow you over the last couple of weeks around just kind of cutting out the headlines, focusing on price action. And I think that's going to make for a really exciting episode today. So thank you for making the time to come on.
No, Nick, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Definitely over the last 10 years, I've really honed in on a strategy that I'm excited to share with the DataDash community. I'm excited to bring my TA, which is exactly like you say. I think people can expect that straightforward TA, really, what is this coin doing now? Where is it headed next kind of thing, but really broken down in a calculated method. So I'd really like to share that with your community today, all the elements of my trading strategy and what I use to analyze the markets. So I'll help break that down and kind of what all of those tools are for. And in my videos, they can expect that going forward. So I'll be using the same elements that I share with them today in all my videos. So it's just the same thing day to day. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome, guys. I'm excited as well. And I think long term, just to let you guys know and stuff, as Cassie will be on the channel, she'll also be over on our X account as well. So if you guys haven't followed that yet, definitely check it out there. She'll be posting a lot of frequent updates there. And also as well, maybe we'll work as well in getting some good evergreen content out where you guys can learn about her strategy in depth. So if there's anything that goes over your head today, it's all good. We will definitely catch up on it and we'll dive deeper into it as time passes. But so I wanted to go ahead and again, back to this theme, Cassie. So you're focused really on getting down to the bare bones of what market signals and price action are telling us. And this means you use a wide range of different tools, wave theory, using Fibonacci's. I want to kind of give you the stage here. Maybe we could dive into doing some Bitcoin price analysis, just as kind of like a base template to not only understand where Bitcoin's going, because that kind of drives the broader trend, but also to maybe get a good example of how you're thinking about markets.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So let's switch over to the Bitcoin chart and I can share, and I'll just talk through the different elements while we have the chart there. So when I first started analyzing markets, and I think when people first start, the most common mistake is to really fill their charts with tons of indicators, right? But what you see here on the chart really breaks down into three simple things. So the RSI, which I have down here, the RSI indicator. And then we have Fibonacci. So there's Fibonacci retracements, which get our support levels all down here. And then Fibonacci extensions, which get our extension levels up here. And then the third element to my analysis is Elliott wave theory, which kind of gives the broader market direction. And you can see pieces of that here with my wave markers. So I think what we could do is maybe start even further back, because I do think that Bitcoin has come to a really critical point where it could be at a significant top in the market. But so we could step back even further here.
Yeah, so what we're doing right here is we're kind of stepping back into the weekly time frame, looking at the big picture, and you're kind of reading that there might be the kind of situation where we're starting to establish a top in the market.
Yes, exactly. So I'm pulled out here to the weekly time frame, and I have my wave markers set here from the start of Bitcoin. So you can see here, I think that we've come to our final fifth wave and breaking that down even further down into 5 waves from there. So I think that this is a cleaner chart, though, that we can maybe talk through a little bit of the elements while we're here. So it's not so messy on the smaller time frames. So the RSI is plotted down here. It's the only indicator that I use. And for me, it's the best indicator to signal a pivot in the market. So I look for divergences in price, which you can see here really clearly on the weekly time frame. The price continues to make a higher high here, while the strength on the RSI is significantly less. So this is a bearish divergence on Bitcoin on the weekly. So the RSI measures momentum in the market and strength. So this is what I use that for. It helps measure tops. So our wave 5s in Elliott wave are even tops of our wave 3s. So it helps measure momentum as we track Elliott waves. So that's one of the elements you'll see me talk about a lot, and the divergences on the RSI. So when the price makes a new extreme and the RSI does not, that's a bearish divergence. Could be the other way around where we start to make a new low, but the RSI does not, and that would be a bullish divergence. So right now we're getting a bearish divergence on Bitcoin. So that's the RSI. And then zoomed in a little bit more is Fibonacci. So there's two different Fibonacci tools that I use, and you can see them pinned here on the short menu here. It's the retracement, which you can see in this set here. Okay, so these are just our local retracements on Bitcoin. This is just retracing the last 5 full set waves. So I like to just keep the retracements there. These are finding your support and resistance levels. So you can see that there. And then I'm just going to get my chart back to how it was. And then the other tool that I use are fib extension tools. So this measures future price action. So this would be helpful for measuring wave 3s in an Elliott wave, wave 5s in an Elliott wave, or even corrections, part of subwaves of a correction. You can get extensions as well, like a C wave. So that's what I use the extension for. You'll hear me talk about that a lot. And yeah, I think that's it with Fibonacci levels. So both of those are really tools that you use to analyze the market, whereas Elliott wave is more of a language of how the market develops over time. And so the market is unfolding in cycles. And you can see here that Elliott wave theory helps to really define these cycles and break it down really nicely for you. So you can see here that on the weekly time frame, I think Bitcoin has come up to a 5th wave that has also formed 5 of its own waves, which in Elliott wave theory, that is what you would like to see. And you can see that it also came right to that fib extension level and has since started retracement down. So any questions, Nick, before I zoom in?
No, yeah, I wanted to definitely kind of run through it like every bit and piece and stuff, because I think this is really good. So to step back on one thing, I know a lot of people are probably familiar with the RSI, and I know you and I, Casi, we chatted a bit about this and stuff when we first initially met, that a lot of people usually use these. There are a lot of these indicators like the MACD or the RSI, and a lot of people use them in this kind of like very simplistic way where something's overbought or oversold. And you're mentioning divergences. This is something that we actually don't talk a lot about in the DataDash channel, but it's very important. A lot of professional traders like yourself use this. And to explain, just for those who are listening, like for divergence, as Casi was mentioning, when you see that lower level in the RSI, instead of just focusing on whether or not the RSI is over, say, 70 points or below 30, meaning it's overbought or oversold, that's really not the best way to use an RSI. As Casi mentioned, it's about momentum. And what you can really look for are these lower highs, even though you might be establishing higher ranges of price. You kind of hinted on that earlier, so I just want to emphasize this is very, very valuable in being able to spot exhaustion in the market, as crypto, especially, is a momentum-driven industry. I wanted to also, this is again more kind of a question stuff for the Elliott wave structure that you were talking about. So this is essentially like a way of understanding long-term, broader structures, but also, I would say, smaller trends as well. So you're able, for example, to draw a larger Elliott wave theory over a longer price history. We're looking at going back, I think, since 2018. So we're going through a couple bull markets here and bear markets. But along with that, you're also talking about in this kind of current bull market from the November 2022 lows that we've been going through an Elliott wave, and now we're in phase 5 essentially within that Elliott wave, which could be signaling the top. So not only are we talking about a potential short-term top, like for a bull market top for this, but we might even be really having a massive blow-off top over a multi-year, multi-cycle move. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a very big picture. Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. And really it's at a critical point because you can see here we haven't broken down far enough to invalidate another high. So if we were to really try to define this into 5 waves, it could potentially make a new high. So it's at a really critical point. What we could do is zoom in a little bit more, kind of where I've been focused. So let's go down to daily. And I'm just going to get rescaled here a little bit. So again, we're zoomed in here on the final 5th wave. And this is the 5th wave of that 5 waves. And you can see even that 5th wave has broken down into 5 waves. So exactly like what you're saying, Nick, I think that this could signal a very strong downtrend in Bitcoin. As an analyst, we can't be too biased because you could see that it's only retraced to the 236 fib retracement. So it could potentially find support at one of these local levels and still come up for a new high before making that larger market correction that I do think is coming. But you can see here, we are just sitting right at that 236 retracement now. With the next fib level at 86,000, that's that 382 retracement. And you can see just how critical it is in the market right now. So this is the daily time frame again. Sorry.
Yeah, and sorry to interject, Cassie. I just wanted to to understand it according to the way you're using these Fibonacci retracement levels. As you mentioned, there could be, as we saw even in 2024, we had a lot of sideways chop in the market from the last prior wave. But essentially, you believe that if we were to see, we might see some chop between these kind of green highlighted levels in the Fibonacci between 86K, 95K, 102. Maybe there will be some retestments. But if we really broke that $86,000, $87,000 level there, you feel like that could really be a pulse from the market that we're heading for a pretty sizable correction.
Yeah, that would definitely be a strong indicator. In Elliott wave theory, the wave 4 typically targets 382 retracement. So anything below that, and especially below the 0.5 retrace at 79,000 would invalidate a new high. So can I say that again? Anything,
Sure.
Anything below a 0.5 retrace would invalidate a new high on Bitcoin. So that's at 79,000. So this could still technically be a wave 4 on Bitcoin unless we break down those levels. So that's what I'm watching for right now. And you can see this is even on the daily. Usually I'm zoomed in even more down here. So even on the 4-hour, you can see just how nicely it's respecting these same exact levels here. So this is the 4-hour, and you can see this is that wave 5 of 5 top here on Bitcoin. The 118 retrace, that 236 retrace just really zoomed in here. So
that's very cool.
Yeah, sorry, Nick.
No, I just wanted to add as well, as we're going through these different levels, everyone, as Casi was showing, these are built-in tools, the Fibonacci retracement, that you can actually use in TradingView. It's to the left-hand side, as she's indicating there. It's a very valuable tool. We've covered it a while back in 2017. And for me, what I found is that it is a very consistent means of being able to find, especially if you're looking for an additional layer of figuring out support in the market where people could be accumulating and starting to build positions. It holds a lot of relevance in traditional markets. And of course, as Cass is demonstrating here beautifully on the chart here on the 4-hour time frame, you can see exactly, she said, that the market will respect these levels. You'll have range trading going on between there. And when you see significant breaks to the upside or downside of these levels, it can really mean a lot for the broader trend direction of the market. Yeah, so this is a really good example. And one last thing I was going to say, Cassie, is like, so you're seeing overall right now that the market's showing some signs here of maybe potentially pulling back in Bitcoin. You're seeing
Yeah.
also as well the divergence here as well in the RSI
Mm-hmm.
in the short term. That's
Right.
interesting as well. What do you make of that so far on this shorter term viewpoint?
On the short term, I think it's really hard to get a wave count on Bitcoin, which is why I'm so focused on these fib retracements. When I
Mm,
can't find a clean wave count, that's what I'm focused on mainly. And you can see here, this is why, because Bitcoin may not have the cleanest waves, but it does respect the fibs nicely. And really, as I'm seeing, even down to the 1 hour, you can just see how nicely it's just trying to build support here at the 236. So that's really what I make of the RSI, is that this is just a strong level so far of support. If I take that measurement tool, sorry, over here, it's been ranging really for 9 days now at this 236 level. So this is a really significant level in the market. A breakdown here, just like you said, I think it's going to be headed to this next support area. But we could continue up and start to build support off here. So that's just what I'm watching for. And you can see on the RSI, it was finding resistance on the RSI, and it did break up that momentum. So we'll see what happens here. But just like you mentioned, the RSI is perfect for measuring price action, where Fibonacci levels you may have set ahead of time. The RSI is really what your go-to is on that minute-to-minute price action. So, yeah, that's exactly what I
yeah.
use it for.
Yeah, exactly. I think in the way you're using it, Cassie, it's able to start like in what might look like relatively sideways chop, like for price action. There's no significant trend. You are starting
Yeah.
to see the RSI give those early stage signals that momentum might
Yep.
be shifting. So that's very
Right.
cool. And now that we've got kind of a good overview, so you use a good combination of things: the RSI, the fib
Yeah.
retracement, also the fib extension. Maybe we can talk about that like a little bit later as well as
Okay.
Elliott wave theory. I'm curious, maybe we can dive into some altcoin charts because I'm really curious to pick your brain on like what altcoins are staying out to. I know we're worried, as you
Mhm.
mentioned, about potential top here, but as it tends to be, sometimes when Bitcoin's setting its final top, we do get potential blow off tops in altcoins. We get maybe an
Mhm.
altcoin cycle. So I'm
Yeah.
curious to hear what are some plays that are looking good to you in the market right now?
Um, well, it's no secret that my favorite is XRP, so I follow that really closely. We could take a look at that right now. It's possible that your followers are also interested, but I do have a good sense of what's going on with this one. So let's take a look at this one. Would you consider this an altcoin?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, XRP.
Okay.
It's one of the historic momentum plays. I mean, I know you've been on top of XRP for a bit, so you
Yeah.
definitely nailed it this cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can see here, it is looking a little bit funky with the Elliott wave count, but this is overall what I'm thinking. We're on the 4 hour chart. Um, let's see if we can make it a little bit more clear. All right. So just to point out a few things here, Elliott wave theory is going to give us that larger market direction, but just like you said, we can break it down into its smaller cycles, right? So overall, I think XRP is either on a wave 2 or a wave 4. So that's what I'm considering it as. I do think it's breaking down into an ABC, probably more likely than an ABCDE, which would be a triangle. So you can see here I have the ABC marked out. And then this C wave down should break down into its own 5 waves. So we did have that like massive liquidation event a couple weekends ago, which was a wave 3 in the market cycle. So that is really clear, and that helped us define that that was a wave 3. And since then, we've been on a wave 4, is what I think. So I've been zoomed in here on this wave 4. Since we're in the wave 4 still, it's possible that we could still come up to that 290 area before trying to come down again, or we could still have another wave 5 down here. But overall, in that weekend event, we did come down to the 0.5 retracement level, which is really significant for a wave 4. and not quite deep enough for a wave 2. So it's still a really critical level in the market. We'll see how this wave 4 develops for XRP. So that's what I'm thinking for XRP. Are there any other specific ones that I should go through?
But just one question on XRP, because
Okay.
I know a lot of people have their eyes on it. And this is, as we were kind of talking about, this is like one of the for the large cap plays. This is definitely where a lot of volume and volatility is. So I know a lot of people are interested in it. So just so I can get a better idea of it as well, Cassie, and for everyone listening, for the your idea here of this market structure and this retracement from like the ABC pattern. Do you believe essentially that, like, irrespective, as you mentioned, maybe there's a short-term rally to try to come in, maybe set in a lower relative high around that kind of that highlighted red range that you put there on the chart? Yeah. But your long-term thesis is that it's got to go through the cycles. It's got to come down, and it's probably going to come to that 0.5 level. Correct me if I got it wrong, but your idea is that will eventually happen at one point or another.
I think that with this situation that happened here is a little bit unique, only because it came down to target, but it was such a strong strength on the RSI, meaning we would need another exhausted low to make that divergence. So normally in an Elliott wave theory as well, we don't end the market on a really strong wave like this. We end on a really exhausted wave. I'm still trying to be unbiased, where it could have potentially maybe been targeting the 382 level instead. And maybe it doesn't need to come down to the 0.5 again. But overall, that's what I'm tracking. I'm tracking this as a wave 4 where it could still come up to this 292. But coming up that high would bring up the wave 5 targets. So yeah, it's a really uncertain time in the market. I don't necessarily think we could get a new low just because of how
dramatic it was, and that wick was for a very short period of time. But as you said, it was. I mean, I've seen a lot of liquidations in crypto. I think that was one of, and net volume and open interest in the market. That was the worst liquidation that we've seen in crypto. So it was incredibly huge.
Yeah. So it's hard to know if, since it did come to that target, did it fill what it needed in the market, or is it going to fulfill, that last 5? Because the wave 5 in an Elliott wave can fail. So that's really why we're tracking RSI and price action zoomed in at these retracement levels to see if we're going to get any short-term pivot and really what it's doing in the short term, so not really waiting for it to fully develop for the wave 5. We're really zoomed in on 1 hour trying to see what's going to happen next, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is really insightful, Cassie. And I guess, is there maybe another altcoin as well we can run through as an example? Then
let's see where ALGO's at.
It's hard to choose. There's so many altcoins nowadays. It used to be simple. A little tidbit for some of you who've been around since 2017 when I was first speaking with Cassie, and similar to Paul as well. We got some heavyweights on the channel and stuff. Cassie's been around even longer than I have. I got into crypto kind of 2016, 2017. But correct me if I'm wrong, Cassie, you started in 2014, 2015? So she's been around like back in times when it was like, you had Bitcoin, Litecoin, I think XRP back then as well.
Yeah.
And really, you could just throw darts at a board and it was so easy to pick. But now you got to be really, really like careful now because there's so many different plays. And it's really heavy on the TA and price action side to get it right and be able to really make good multiples.
Yeah. No, it's been exciting. I've almost evolved with the market or matured with the market in my TA. And just like you said, my sister and I, we would be on Poloniex. We would just buy a coin and just pump it in the troll box, and we would make money. So
it was a simpler time.
It was a simpler time back then, and so we've had to adapt to what the time is now. So
that's very funny.
So this is ALGO. I'm on the 4-hour chart here. Similar to, actually, I should put in the wave markers while we're here.
It might be good actually to kind of demonstrate this in action. Yeah.
Okay, I can do in action. Okay. So for ALGO here, I'm going to put in the wave markers so you can see a little bit more clearly. this could be our wave A here, our wave B, and then our wave C, which did make a lower low. It doesn't look like it's a complete one-of-one target yet. Like it could potentially come down lower, which we can get that measurement out in a second. So like I said, this is ALGO on the 4 hour and the ABC correction here. And this is just really standard what I would expect to see. You can see the B wave just has a ton of consolidation, which is really typical for a B wave. The A is just straight to the point, right to a target, right to that 618. And then the C is making a new low. And it does look similar to XRP, where that last wave down was really strong in the market. And we're in kind of a wave 4, potentially needing another low. So this TA over here on ALGO is kind of confirming what I'm thinking over on XRP, which is kind of interesting. But what it could do next is kind of break down this C wave, and we can see if we can get any further confirmation of maybe this 786 retrace for potential support or pivot in the market. So if I use the fib extension tool, so let's get the C target down here, because you can see that it doesn't necessarily make the one-of-one target like we would expect. So to get that C target down here, you use that fib extension tool that we talked about, and you start at the start of A, the bottom of A, to the top of B. So it's a little bit confusing, but it's really easy once you understand it. And then C targets the 1 extension. So you can see that the 1 extension on ALGO is coming down to that 854 retracement if we don't make a new high in this wave 4. So you can see this 1 extension here could be targeting down there. So that's pretty interesting that we're getting alignment down there on that support. But overall, this is falling at a really significant 618 support. So if I were looking to get into ALGO, this would be a significant support area here. I wouldn't necessarily be waiting for that C low. That would just be another opportunity. But yeah, so right now it's hitting a significant level here. But if it does drop down to that 15 cents, that's another significant buy there.
So yeah, to kind of put it in practical terms for like someone who's trying to learn as a trading strategy, so basically, as you're saying, Casi, like right now there could be you're already kind of seeing it in the price action, the 4 hour time frame. This might be an accumulation range. It was the prior low at the A range, not to mention you can even see as you just kind of look back in like kind of early December, that's where essentially you had a bit of chop before the secondary large expansion happened. So you see that this could be potentially a good entry point. But what's nice about this is that in the event that, let's say you were to buy here and it goes south, it doesn't work out, right? The trend doesn't start turning upwards. You could have a stop limit, at maybe, for example, 25, 26, 27 cents, kind of right below those fib levels, the 618. And then essentially what you could do is sit back and cash and wait for an entry at that C wave. Once that's completed, it goes to the 0.854 level on the Fibonacci retracement.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's exactly what I would be doing.
Yeah, no, this is very interesting. It's a great practical example. And the nice thing about this, guys, is that I think what's really cool about this is exactly as you said, Casi, you're not using too much. Like you can get some hints from the RSI looking for divergences, but you're really looking into price. And I know some people also probably maybe might feel a little bit overwhelmed about like Elliott wave theory. I just want to let you all know, like again, Casi will take some time to explain this as time passes. It is one of the more technical things to understand within markets. But what's great about it is that it is a way of understanding, I think, in many ways, and feel free as well, Casi, to maybe add your 2 cents on as well on how you kind of imagine it. But I always imagine Elliott wave theories, as well as all these kind of cycle theories that play on markets. It's a way to help visualize the kind of like the human psychological waves of markets and how they function. So you have these blow off tops, for example, like we saw there in like kind of mid-December. And here, at least in the short term, over the next few months, Algorand, or ALGO in this case, is going through not only the first initial sharp correction, as she mentioned, a correction is going to be harsh. It's going to basically mean that all those gains you got quickly, they're going to be given up just as quick, practically speaking. And you can see, as she mentioned, that there's essentially these kind of higher lows and higher highs. There's an attempt to try to reclaim the high, but every single time you're getting this kind of short-term sell exhaustion that's going to set in a lower relative high B wave. And that's going to essentially lead us down into some range of capitulation where either at this 618 level or likely down at the 854 level, the Fibonacci retracement, you could really start to have winded down a lot of those excess gains and give institutional capital, smart traders, people who are using this system, a real entry point that is favorable from a risk reward perspective.
Mhm.
So it's a very beautiful thing. Once you learn how to read it, it can give you a lot of hints and keep you from making a lot of bad mistakes in the markets when it's
Exactly.
like when you're just trying to chase, oh, something's down 30%, I'm going to buy it. You know,
Mhm.
it's much more
Yeah.
process oriented.
It definitely helps you stay calculated, right? And it helps keep your emotions out of your decisions when you have
Absolutely.
the fib retracements, for sure.
Yeah. Now, this is really cool, Cassie. So, okay, so we've taken a look at two good altcoin examples. We also took a
Yeah.
look into Bitcoin on the short and long term time frame. I would
Yeah.
love to see, like, I'm a bit of a macro person. Not everyone on the channel likes when I talk about stocks. We usually keep it towards the later part of the videos, but I'm curious to kind of see this in action when maybe looking at like a particular stock. So I know one big narrative is the semiconductor sector. Nvidia has been really big. There's obviously other plays as well. I think we were chatting a bit that you had some interest on AMD. So I would
Yeah.
love to maybe bring that up. Maybe we can do that as another example, kind of stepping out
Okay.
of our crypto bubble, kind of talking
Yeah,
about
let's
what's going
take a
on.
look at that. So let's get a little bit more zoomed out. Kind of just like we started on Bitcoin. I always start really zoomed out with my analysis and start from that first trend and then zoom in. That's the best way to go about that. So you can see here, this is AMD on the weekly, just starting right from the bottom here, trying to count out those 5 Elliott waves, which is the first full trend, right? So I have the 5 waves built out here. And you can see here, it came to our wave 5, confirmed on the RSI down here. So our price made a higher high. The RSI did not. And then I do think it's coming down into that larger ABC correction that you can see here. I would have thought that we could have had another high, but it's just broke down that previous one wave too far for it to get another high. So I do think we're down into the larger ABC correction now. I'm just going to drop it down to 4 hour here a little bit. So it's a little bit more clean. Maybe.
No, but I have to say, just to interject, Cassie, that
Okay.
long-term setup is beautiful. Like this is exactly how I think this is a great example of this in practice, and also
Right?
for a really big opportunity because, and not to interject too much, but like this play of like AMD versus NVIDIA, traditionally in graphics processing units for like kind of computer gaming, traditional graphics processing demand and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But now in the world of AI, we got to keep a sharp eye on AMD as a player here. And this might be very well, like as you mentioned, you're kind of the highlighted $80 level is very interesting.
Yeah. Now we're zoomed in a little bit more. So this was that wave 5 high. And this is the ABC since that I think that we're on. So just like we saw over on ALGO, we had that sharp wave down for A, some kind of funky correction for B, and then we started down for C. And C has made a new low, and it's reaching really critical support levels. We are a little bit zoomed in, so these are a little bit clustered here. But you can see here this 1 of 1 extension here. This is that C target, so that's at 100. Sometimes our C can extend down to the 1.236 extension, which is really near that significant 618 retrace. And I like to look for those areas where we have the subwave of C aligning with that larger fib retracement, which you can see here. So we have the 618 retracement and the 1.236 extension really aligning. So that's at $83 to $92. I think we could see a low or support there. But after an ABC is complete, then a new trend begins. So that's really exciting that we could be near the end of wave C. And it doesn't look like we have much to go.
Yeah, the
That's
trend
exciting.
the trend right now, it's a clear downtrend right now. It's following
Yeah.
through in that C. But as you mentioned, that's the range where you're probably going to start seeing at a minimum an attempt to build some kind of accumulation,
Mm-hmm.
pushing sideways, starting to find support at one of
Right.
those fib levels. And once you, I think this is the cool thing, and correct me if you disagree, Cassie, but like I think the way I kind of view it is, as you mentioned, you're kind of moving around some levels and stuff, like looking at different ranges. You're not calling for exactly one particular level. I think the
Right.
great thing about this is that Elliott wave theory is not aimed at directly knowing exactly like at this price this is going to be the low.
Exactly.
It is a tad bit subjective, but the important thing about it is that it can at least let you have a full constant visual reminder of the
Mm-hmm.
broader play out, like all the steps that usually occur when we're going through expansions and corrections. And then from there, the Fibonacci is kind of your grounding tool to be like, okay, we're giving it some time. We're finding that price is holding at this level. We can find favorable risk reward entries here. It doesn't mean we have a guarantee, but at a minimum, we have a great risk reward where, considering the Fibonacci expansions, you can start to have an understanding of levels that price could go to. And beyond that, you can have your mitigated stop losses to mitigate any losses, to a level
Mm-hmm.
that's acceptable for you as a trader.
It's exactly what you say. I think people who misunderstand Elliott waves really think that it's going to give them all the answers. And just like you said, it narrows your focus, right? Where we're not focused on every single retracement in our target. We're focused more on where they align. So where our C wave is also targeting that larger, maybe wave 2 target down to the 618. So it's the alignment of cycles, and it's the alignment of the RSI as well. So that it's watching the price action as it reaches those critical points for that exhaustion. So you can see here on the 4-hour, the selling is getting exhausted. So as it's reaching down to these prices here, down to our targets, the RSI is getting exhausted. The selling is exhausted.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's what I'm watching here. Like you said, we have 102, or so what is that, 103 area, down to that lower target there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's it.
excited to see what happens here.
I didn't even notice that the RSI, exactly as you pointed out. You're starting to see that initial hint from the market, and you can also see it again, like as you mentioned, following how it's going to react with those fib levels. And if there's one where it starts to chop a bit more sideways, whereas what's nice about this is you can see every single time we break to a new fib level, it would retest and treat the other level above it as resistance. And it
Yeah.
just basically just kept chopping down and down and down. So
Yeah.
it's been in a
Perfect.
brutal downtrend, yeah. But I think now, as you mentioned, this might be interesting. So I'm someone
Mm-hmm.
who likes to trade in stocks. I mean, I also look one thing as well, like that I use in my wheelhouse is I use ratios. Again, it's never as important as price action, but it can give hints when it's more favorable to be in one asset or another. And AMD has gone through these historic trends with NVIDIA in the past. So I like to look at the AMD NVIDIA ratio, which generally is declining. NVIDIA usually outpaces in the long run, but that doesn't mean at the same time there can be a much more favorable short-term setup or long-term in AMD, especially after such a correction like this. So,
Yeah.
well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is really cool, Cassie. I'm so thankful that you spent some time here to go
Yeah.
through it. I think for something that can appear a bit technical, right, face value, you did a great job of explaining
Thank
this. And
you.
for me, it was a good refresher because I don't use Fibonacci's as much as I used to, but I think this is really like, especially on the higher time frames, this is so powerful. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
It is.
especially, yeah, kind of staying away from like the, day trading or anything like that, but really for long-term swing positions, this can be very powerful. So,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you again, Cass.
Yeah.
This was really cool.
Yeah. No, it's been awesome. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, if you guys are interested in learning more, definitely continue to keep up with us here on the DataDash channel. Cassie will be putting out some videos from time to time here on the YouTube channel. But beyond that as well, she'll also be contributing over on our X page for more kind of frequent analysis. So especially if you are kind of honed in on some of the major altcoin pairs, some of the ones that Cassie covered here in today's video, as well as some other ones that'll be on her radar. If you want to kind of continue to pick up bits and pieces on her process and learn about it, obviously definitely go follow me. I'll leave the link down below to the Twitter below, and for the X page. And outside of that as well, we're hopefully going to work on getting some good evergreen content so you guys can learn the deeper depths of Elliott wave theory, how Casi uses the RSI and fib retracements. I think it's going to make for some really exciting content. So Casi, thanks again for making the time. It was a pleasure as always, and looking forward to having you back on soon.
Thank you, Nick. It was awesome.